Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have 3 brand new stories, starting with a short one to warm us up. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Misclassified employee, me. I was willfully employed as an independent contractor. Although I was expected to be there every day, I was the office manager. At the time, I had to take any job I could find, so I took it. Then I looked into what exactly an independent contractor actually is and realized I was not supposed to be one. So I brought it up to my employer, not to get me reclassified, but to get to work from home part-time. The company did almost everything online, and many of them worked from home, so this wasn't an issue. Instead, they said I could work from home full-time, except for payroll days, which had to be done from my work desk. They gave me mundane tasks, one of which was spamming people via email for about a month, then they fired me. An independent contractor doesn't get unemployment benefits, but I applied anyway. The company denied it. I still got unemployment in the meantime and knew that it would all be revoked if I was wrong and that I would have to pay it all back. I took the chance. So I did more research, which led me to fill out Form SS8 about my misclassification. It took a while. I had to send multiple files to the IRS and the company regarding my duties, had to copy them on everything, even had a phone interview with the IRS and the company on conference call. IRS determined I was misclassified. Minimum penalty is $5,000, which is more than the amount I was paid as an independent contractor during my time there. And our second story. Fire the receptionist and give her salary to me. I worked at a small law firm with 1 senior lawyer, 1 junior lawyer, a clerk, a receptionist, and me, an articling student. The senior lawyer, SL, was really nice, but junior lawyer was what's commonly known as a D-canoe. We shall therefore call him DC. So DC seemed to spend an awful lot of time in his office with the door closed, not really accomplishing anything. The rest of the time he spent harassing me and the receptionist. He was still settling cases, but I'm pretty sure he was spending the majority of his time on Reddit. Irony, I know. So, SL goes on vacation, and the first day she's gone, DC comes in for half the day, then leaves with all his personal effects from the office. He says he might not be back the next day, and that's the last we ever saw of him. The rest of us were understandably confused, but his leaving didn't really change much because most of the work was on hold pending SL's return from holiday, and DC never seemed to do much anyway. I didn't get the whole story until later, but apparently before this, DC went to SL and told her he wasn't getting paid enough. She asked him why he thought he was entitled to more money. He replied that he was worth more than she was paying him, and if she wanted to keep him, she would have to put up more money. She told him that the billings he was bringing in were barely covering his salary and the receptionist's salary. There just wasn't any more money available. So DC said to her, "In that case, you need to fire the receptionist and give her salary to me." SL was stunned, but told him very coldly that she was not going to fire the receptionist. She was doing a good job and contributing more to the firm than DC was. If DC wanted more money, he could work harder to bring in clients. If he wasn't happy with what he was getting paid, he didn't need to be there when she got back from vacation. I guess he went with the latter option. On the plus side, the clerk got a nice new office. And our last story. Woman tries to take my money. Okay, this is more of an avenge story rather than a revenge story since my friend did it, but I was a major part of the story and thought I might share. For a bit of background information, I work in my local branch of a chain of large businesses, I won't give any names, and have done so for about 4 years. It's a nice job and I really enjoyed it up until the incident. I design kitchens, bathrooms, and bedrooms for people. In our store, if you sell a project you designed, you take them down to the tills with a computer-generated barcode directly tied to the order. Based on how many projects you sell compared to the average and your working hours, you can earn bonuses. You're given your own login details and password. You aren't really allowed to share passwords, but sometimes we do if someone's computer is down or there's a server error. Okay, to the story. Within the first few days of working here, I befriended my would-be department manager before his promotion. Cut to about 2 years later, and he's been promoted and is now my manager, and I'm happy with where I am in my position. About 7 months ago, a new girl started who seemed nice and very sociable. Since there's a lot to learn in regards to systems, finance, sales, and general product knowledge, I offered to give her a few helpful tips and tricks and a general tutor of the new system. I gave her my numbers due to hers not being ready yet and let her play around with it. A few weeks later, everything's going well. She's all set up with her account. She was starting to get sales and was designing a few good kitchens. She seems to be on most people's good side, and she'd stopped using my account. Or so I thought. When I found out she was still using my account, I asked her why, as she was all set up with hers. She said my custom layout of the system and computer was much better and easier to use than hers, which was very understandable as it's quite complicated at times. I say I understand and offer to give her account a do-over if she wanted, but it would take a few hours and there's a lot to do. She said it'd be nice, but she didn't want anyone knowing her details, so I said okay, but reiterated the fact that she can't keep using my numbers. She agrees quietly, and I tell her I'll swap the owners of all projects she's made that are tied to my account. A few months later, my manager calls me and says there's an issue with several of my projects, additional items where there shouldn't be, and words to the effect of rookie mistakes. I go up to his office and have a look at what he's talking about. He has access to everyone's projects as a manager and can view them but not edit or interact with them. I get to his office and he sits me down and points to his screen. These are not my projects. I don't recognize any of them and I'm very confused. I explain they are not mine and I don't know whose they are. He asks if I've given anyone my details unofficially, and I say yes. Pretty much most people know my account and ask if they can use it if theirs is down once in a blue moon. He asks if I've had any problems with my account and anyone, and I mention the new girl. He says okay and calls her up to ask if she knows anything about it. She arrives, and when the scenario is explained, she denies all knowledge of it and says she's forgotten my details. He seems satisfied and sends her out. I'm none the wiser about who's the true creator of the projects and believe her, as it's been about a month since she said she'd stop. A few days later, some rumors appear about new girl in my account. Manager calls me back in, then calls new girl in. Without telling new girl, he opens one of the phantom projects and asks her to give a bit of a story about it. Standard manager checkup with staff members who've created a few projects that aren't selling. She immediately tells this elaborate story about how and why she hasn't sold it. I'm shocked as I genuinely believed her. He then shows it's under my account and she starts getting very upset. He calms her down and he gives us both an official warning as per policy. I was warned for sharing details. She was warned for using other people's details. He spoke to me about it and said it had to be done officially now as the problem had escalated, but also said that he would vouch for me if anything would happen. He said he'd forgive her for lying, and he could understand that she could have been worried of being punished for doing it, which I agreed, and we went on our way. He said he would delete all record of her on my account and take her sold and current projects off my history and financial statistics. I was happy. I asked him to change my account details for me and transfer my history. He agreed and everything was good. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Skip a few months later, and I get a call from my manager. His face was beaming. He goes on to explain that due to an error when I was first employed, my bonus and statistics calculators were incorrect. I work 4 days a week. The system was told I was working 5 days a week and notified him that I was falling behind on sales. He corrected the error and worked out that the place owed me a lot in bonuses. I was delighted, as this was about a month's wages added up. I gave him the biggest smile and walk out with a check for the bonuses. I deposited him that day. A couple days later, new girl finds out and is furious. She confronted me, calling me a lazy worker and an awful designer, and said stuff like how she was better and how she was more talented. I explained to her the reality of the situation, which pissed her off even more. She then screamed that it was her money and stormed off to see our manager. He called me up and sat me down. In front of me, she mocked me, belittled me, and lied about me to our manager as I sat there stunned. She then demanded my money. She said she'd take it higher than him if she didn't get it and threatened to get the police involved for stealing from her. My manager told her to calm down and said, "Don't worry, you'll get your keep," which I thought was odd, and I just looked at him. He said, "Don't worry," and turned back to the new girl to explain why I had the payout. She then explains to him that all of the business on the account were because of her projects being there too. She smirked at me and said, "My money now, effer." I just looked at my manager, who calmly signaled for me to wait. He then went on to interrogate her about why she had my login details and why she was using them. New girl quickly ran out of lies when she realized what she'd admitted to and tried to get out of it by shouting that she doesn't want the money anymore. He then went on to explain that he had reassigned my old numbers to be tied to her account when he created new ones for me out of a gut feeling that she was lying about her not using mine again and didn't tell either of us. Her tower of lies and stupidity fell down around her. Not only was she tied to her old account, but she was tied to my old account too. He asked her why she was using my old account again, and she just started freaking out, mumbling random things as she tried to figure out an answer. I was crying with laughter right beside her. He then told her she was fired and had 2 weeks' notice. Her wages would not be paid for this month, and told her the company was planning to take her to court for the cost of fixing all her sold projects that had errors in them, and that had to be solved and paid for out of the company's pocket. She started crying and tried to appeal to both of us. He then said that any bonuses that she earned would be automatically added to my wages and told her to get out. She did, and I haven't seen her since. Since then, my friend and I have both been promoted. I'm now department manager, and he's now store manager. By the way, new girl lost the court case and was ordered to pay about £4,000. She's now unemployed and apparently being consistently turned down by employers, as her history is always mysteriously and anonymously tipped by a certain manager of a certain store. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.